Good evening, and welcome to the Kennedy Center's Family Theater for our free Millennium Stage performance series brought to you by Target. My name is Mackenzie Maidock, and I work in the Office of VSA and Accessibility. The Millennium Stage offers free performances 365 days of the year, and performances are live streamed on the web. Learn more about the Millennium Stage and search the performance archives at www.kennedy-center.org/programs/millennium. Tonight's show features 5 outstanding writers reading original works. Each of the writers are participants in the Veterans Writing Workshop, an initiative of the NYU Creative Writing Program, offering free classes to recent veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Please note that this show contains adult language and mature themes. This performance is part of the VSA Artists on Stage initiative and is made possible by the Rosemary Kennedy Education Fund, as well as the Ambassador Jean Kennedy Smith and her tireless support of VSA's Arts in the Military initiative. Tonight's writers will be reading in the order as their bios appear in your program. Now please join me in welcoming our first writer, Mr. Brandon Caro.
Hello. I'm going to read a piece called Preventative Medicine. It ran in the At War blog of the New York Times, January 11th of this year. Prevention is the surest form of medicine. This is a fact. It is with clean hands, from strenuous, frequent washing and the habitual application of hand sanitizer, that we are able to restrict the diffusion of bacterial and viral nasties, of parasitic organisms, and interloping malevolent fungi. With these simple measures, we are able to arrest potentially hazardous threats to our health and well-being before they have had the chance to infiltrate us. Prevention. Any doctor, nurse practitioner, lab coat, or orderly will attest to this. As a Navy hospital corpsman, a combat medic, I learned the value of preventative medicine at Basic Hospital Corps School in Great Lakes, Illinois, and got a refresher at Field Medical Service School at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. In training, we learned that straddle trench latrines had to be dug no less than 50 feet from a birthing area and at least 100 feet from a food or water supply to avoid contamination. We also learned that roughly 90% of all heat injuries were the direct result of dehydration, and that water from an uncontrolled source must always be treated with iodine before it is safe to drink. It was our job, my job, to mitigate these risks and minimize the liabilities to the health of my men, to prevent them from sprouting like noxious weeds in the areas where we launched our field exercises. And the Navy's doctrine of prevention was effective so long as the risks remained identifiable and predictable. But on the ground, the dangers to our troops, my ward, were more diverse and aggressive than microbes. In Laghman Province, Afghanistan, the hazards had legs and arms and beards and carried Kalashnikovs and dug holes in the road that they later filled in with explosives, waiting for me and others like me to cross over the threshold before phoning in the detonation sequence. The risks hid out near choke points on the mountain passes and fired rocket-propelled grenades at our convoys periodically before scattering like insects beneath an overturned rock. Sometimes their strikes were successful and caused injury and even death. Premature, preventable death. Their fighters were no different than E. coli in that threats that had yet to be dealt with. As the threats to our men evolved, so too evolved our methods of keeping them safe. It is most effective from a medical standpoint to confront these threats head-on before they have made contact, for it is far more difficult to execute the standard medical response to a sucking chest wound than it is to create one. So in the field, a new doctrine emerged. It is based on an enhanced, more liberal understanding of the term prevention. Corpsmen, medics, and other medical personnel like me are called upon to share equally in the responsibilities of manning the guns on convoys and engaging enemy targets directly. And our participation in the active operation of heavy weapons from the turret is not regarded as out of the ordinary simply because we are medical personnel. It is accepted as a poignant representation of the evolution of warfare. To be sure, when I rode up in the turret, both thumbs resting gently on the butterfly trigger of the Browning 50 caliber machine gun, I often questioned the logic of why a corpsman should also be a gunner. But whenever I was at a loss, I would recall what one of my instructors in field medical service school at Camp Lejeune had said to our class. Killing the enemy was in fact a form of medical treatment. Preventative medicine, he called it. There is conflicting guidance about whether this is appropriate. There are the Geneva Conventions, which contain some stipulation about the proper role of medical personnel in a combat zone. We are protected, meaning we are considered non-combatants and are hence not to be targeted by either side. This clause, however, is uniformly disregarded by the enemy in Afghanistan. Indeed, we no longer wear the red cross on our helmets because it serves as little more than a beacon for enemy sniper fire. Our forces do not technically target their medics because, as far as I know, they don't have any. As medical personnel, traditionally, we were not meant to carry rifles or operate crew-served weapons, heavy machine guns or mortars, or call for fire for airstrikes. We are not meant to kill. But no one knows the exact phrasing of the stipulation because no one on the ground, no one I've ever spoken to has actually ever read the Geneva Conventions, which is a series of treaties concerning the rules of war as they apply to recognized signatory nations. In the end, the tactics and the procedures and the doctrine all have a way of working themselves out. It is, after all, always better to work smarter, not harder, and as we well know, prevention is the surest form of medicine. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Teresa Fazio, and I will be reading a piece adapted from a memoir that I'm writing. On the morning of my Marine Corps deployment to Iraq, I zipper my last will and testament into a green LL Bean backpack, the kind with a reflective stripe. 4 weeks since I joined my new unit, and already we're leaving. I pack away fear in bags and boxes, tuck resentment of my divorced parents between tight folds, scrunch in homesickness at leaving my wisecracking younger brothers, stuff the insecurity over men into a suitcase, strip down the shock of deployment along with the bed linens. I empty white Rubbermaid containers of green t-shirts and silky shorts, fold newly name-taped desert camouflage into green duffel bags inked with my last name in bold black letters. Their seams pucker in silent rebuke. I lug a laptop case with my new Dell that the enlisted men joke is the officer's standard issue weapon. Inside, I tuck an extra t-shirt, underwear, and 3 bags of M&Ms. I fold my appropriate civilian attire, khaki pants and ugly polo shirts, into a blue bag I've lugged around since middle school. It will stay behind in the States. My pink blankets, with me since birth, are the last things I bag. My last few minutes before leaving, when I ensure my cell phone is turned off and shiny insignia secured in a strawberry shortcake lunch tin, I bury my face in my blankets, inhaling deeply their comforting scent. My scent. I kiss them goodbye, then I zip up the bag. 3 weeks later, I sleep 4 hours on the tailgate of a roofless Humvee. My watch alarm beeps as the battalion lurches into activity. We load up, slam the armored doors, and trundle off in convoy. Before daybreak, we cross the line of departure. A spray-painted cardboard sign points an arrow, Iraq. I am in Iraq. Fuck. I am in Iraq. I'm holding a rifle, a loaded pistol strapped to my jacket. Fuck. I think of Miss Hopkins, my old band director, the chest-high striped pants, my glinting clarinet. College physics exams nearly flunked despite fancy ROTC-financed schooling. A lot of good that does against roadside bombs. My clumsy midshipman antics, spilling brass polish on the first day of indoctrination. Fuck, I am an idiot. What would my high school math teacher say to this? He taught me trigonometry on the back of a pizza box. And for what? So I could be a rolling target for anyone hiding under the bridges of this cloverleaf? The cosine of 2 pi is fuck. We crash through a pothole and my gut leaps through my gullet. Really? My last thoughts about freshman year math problems? I should be having deep, profound insights if I could die any minute. Instead, I'm hungry. Fuck. How many calories are in the jalapeno cheese spread? I keep my weapon pointed outboard, fingers straight and off the trigger, safety on. Small children sprint from a mud hut to greet us, precious collateral damage. The sun rises fully in an overcast sky. My A driver tears open a bag of Skittles, yawns, rattles them into his mouth. He seems unconcerned. He was here last summer. As the youngest, shortest officer in the battalion, I've been baptized Little T. My Kevlar jacket barrels a woodland-patterned carapace onto my 5'1" frame. Even slung tight, my M16 hangs past my knees. Hacked-off hair and wire-rimmed glasses ensure I don't look feminine. The combined effect is less Hurt Locker than Harry Potter Goes to War. I wipe trousers with sweaty hands, sunburnt after 2 days of this 3-day convoy. I fish a camera from my cargo pocket and aim a few touristy snapshots, keeping one hand on my rifle. Its front sight post pokes into the foreground of each picture. The cheap foam donut under my helmet barely keeps it out of my eyes. I clutch my GPS, a Christmas gift from my father, into which I've meticulously pecked the grid coordinates of our way stations. The US model doesn't carry Iraqi maps, but I can see the line we've traveled. I track how far we've gone, yell it up to the driver in case he's interested. He isn't. We stop for a 10-minute break. A long line of waiting cars snakes by. They'd lingered behind as we lumbered forth. A white Toyota sedan slowly passes. 2 men, bearded and burly, sit up front. 3 women cradling children cram into the back seat. One mom looks out the window. She wears a head covering, but no veil. A kindergarten-age girl squirms in her lap. The woman's eyes stop at me and deepen. I look like a 12-year-old in uniform. I lower my rifle, smile, and give a small wave. She sees I'm female. Her face crinkles into a huge smile. Both mother and daughter wave. I feel connected, awash in pride. I think they love us. When we get moving again, north of Nasiriyah, men in robes see us coming and turn their backs. Buildings conjure an Arab South Bronx. I glimpse a booted shepherd grasping a wire-bound remote. I align my rifle and click off the safety. When I squint through my sights, he just holds an old man's cane. The next day, we arrive at Camp Takaram, TQ, thirsty and chapstinked against wind and sun. Each morning for the next several weeks, I stumble from a 24-woman tent to our comm site. Antennas stalk up like fragile pines. Our captain introduces me to my 2 platoons, wire and maintenance, 35 Marines in all. They talk in great detail about last year, the real war. As a new lieutenant in a unit comprised of people who deployed together just 8 months prior, I have the constant impression of joining a summer camp the year after everyone else. As the junior-most officer, I stand the worst watch in the tiny systems control hut, 0200 to 10. I surf the web, peer at network diagrams, and try to decipher the Arabic graffiti burnt into the concrete ceiling. Once in a while, I daydream about a blue-eyed male lieutenant, the military policeman who's half Jordanian and all gorgeous. Of course, he doesn't talk to me. He talks to the other female lieutenant in my company, Marla. Marla stands Syscon watch right before mine. Wan, blonde Marla, whose pulchritude pulsates through her thin olive t-shirt, wide at the neck to expose her sports bra. Emerald-eyed Marla, who wears a matching ring from a stateside lieutenant who stitches homemade ghillie suits but cannot bring himself to propose properly. Marla unconsciously flirts with a male officer from the air wing who saunters by daily to ask about the crypto. Meanwhile, she bats eyelashes at a Cobra pilot we nicknamed Captain Glory. Soon they are an item. As Marla chats up the males with a demure giggle, I stew with 6th grade rage, feeling simultaneously superior and envious. No brawny pilots glance my way, except to ask for extra radio batteries. Living up to my MIT degree, I am undateable, even surrounded by 5,000 men in the desert. In the throes of jealousy, I think she represents everything wrong with women in the Marine Corps. I have 2 options, be like Marla and be desired, or be sexless and serious. To be respected, I must stuff girlishness away, hide my vulnerability, plate it over with Kevlar and martial arts posturing. Shrapnel may shred my skin and shed my blood, but Marla's feminine wiles highlight my true weakness. I am hopeless when it comes to men. I could be the most respected officer on the base, but I'm an utter failure as a woman compared to Marla. 4 months later, I push a plywood door into cool darkness pocked with twilight slanting through cracks. On the bunker's shellacked concrete floor, a single transport case lies latched. It shines dully under dim fluorescence. This one I can't accidentally knock open with the skateboard my comm school buddy emailed me. I can't kick this one with a Sandy size 5 boot. This one contains an engineer-taped body bag. This one they're about to drape a flag over. This one is full. The mortuary affairs Marines nod, "Hey, ma'ams," at me, a familiar interloper. I watch as they tie the stars and stripes tight with twine, boxed and ready, one angel flying home. They really call the dead that, angels. In later years, I will dismiss this as so much mawkish crap, but in the moment, on deployment, it fits. I glance around for the Marine they call the Sir. Though technically I outrank him, he's far senior in age and experience. He pokes intense eyebrows around the corner, shoulders muscled under thin scrubs, sad smile dimpling cheeks, scruffed after too many days that begin at night. He walks over. A few other Marines mill around, but not enough to man the 6 handles rimming the case's perimeter. Standing by a handle, I see a chance to wring some credibility from the black matte bars on my collar. I genuflect, "Here, I'll help," as my filthy cover tumbles toward the deck, its brim dark from perspiration and repeated flingings groundward. On the nights I go to the room of there, sir, and we lock eyes, then tongues. We carry the case to the plywood door, counterweighted with a sand-filled plastic water bottle, its desiccated label peeling from sun-crackled shell. We nudge the warped door open, thwack shins on the door jamb, and curse our way across the awkward threshold, where a Humvee sits idling. The door bangs behind us, tripping a damped oscillation. Gripping the case's handles, we lay it on asphalt at the vehicle's rear, grunting and sweating in hot night wind. When a sergeant pulls down the Humvee tailgate, Laredo, a sinewy lance corporal about my height, materializes behind my left shoulder. He says solemnly, "Ma'am, will you hold my clipboard?" I glance back, "Oh, sure, Laredo, here, let me," and I turn around. As he hands me the clipboard, he switches places with me, taking his rightful position in front of the transport case handle. Right, his job, not mine. The lieutenant gets the clipboard. Well played. Laredo's rope-veined forearms flex, and 6 Marines lift in practiced unison. Maybe I helped a little? I lose track of the vehicle as it recedes into dust and darkness. The flag-draped coffin continues its journey onto the airfield, away from Taqadum, onto Al-Assad, Landstuhl, Dover. But the weight of the case stays in my wrists. The weight of the evening entombs my heart. The angels only ever fly home at night. As we walk back inside, there's not much to say. The Marines scatter to spades games, emails home, midnight movies, anywhere but this cavern lined with sawdust and empty stretchers. I follow there, sir, to his room in the bunker, sling my camel black on the fake linoleum floor. He locks the door with a thick shard of pine, holds my hand for a second, then pulls me against him. It's what I've been hoping for, though I know it's wrong. I can feel the invisible band of his unworn wedding ring. My guilt flies away with the transport case, where it's cataloged with other emotions that'll flood back years later. But for now, it's frozen, embalmed. A paltry fan buzzes warm breeze. He tugs my t-shirt hem from sweat-stained waistband, traces my hips. My nose nudges the notch of his V-necked scrubs, brushing a jiu-jitsu tattoo. I look up, my cheek grazes blonde stubble before we kiss. We turn to the mattress he calls his princess bed. He's tossed out the mosquito net canopy. It tangles when he bolts upright after nightmares. I remove my glasses, the nerd's code for romance, and set them on a plywood shelf. He does the same with his pistol. I set an alarm, pushing worn plastic watch buttons. Just give me 20 minutes alone with him. It might be one of us in the transport case tomorrow. He rests on his back. I lay stomach down, left arm splayed across his chest, cheek in his shoulder, nose to his bicep. His right hand circles the small of my back. We drowse. His leg jerks, a myoclonic twitch. He mumbles his son's name, then mine, then I love you. Reluctantly, I spin my wrist to eyeball thin LED numbers. 2 more minutes, then 30 seconds. It's already tomorrow. I slide off the bed, feet first, stomach down, reluctant to leave his poncho liner. I press sunburnt lips to his forehead, perch my glasses on my nose, hoist my camelback, and steal away past his slop sink out the back door. I make sure the heavy plywood doesn't slam. I still want to go home, like we all do. But I also want more time with him. All I have, and all I can ask for, is the strength of his arms around me for one more day out here. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Goodwin. I'm going to read 2 short pieces for you. The first is called A Thin Line. There's a thin, thin line between arrogance and confidence, attempt and execution, ambiguity and precision, awkwardness and finesse, admiration and loathing. Every day my mind played out the routine, 5 of us in 2 rows, 10 in all. The feel of synchronicity motivated by the harmony of chemistry, the serenade of the unit in unison, the seduction so alluring. I acquiesce, my body no longer my own. Every turn sharp, every step thunderous, every moment crisp. Every detail from beginning to end, perfect. That's how it had to be, perfect. Yet within it all, fear stirred. Usually, its companionship was warranted, comforting, a humble caress of my psyche. It never led me astray. But now its hands clutched at my stomach, wrenching nausea from my pores, panic setting in closer and closer, every fiber urging me to run, run, run. But for some reason, I did not. I stayed, despite the dread, the awful dread I felt. I stayed. Second day of practice, the Fort Lee, Virginia sky hanging gently with a yellow sun. Its soft yellow bulb, its aerial, cloudless, faded baby blue horizon extending itself forever. It held a quiet warmth akin to serenity. Still, a bit early in the morning, the birds were nesting somewhere. Everything around us had settled naturally, each in its rightful place. All except us. The atmosphere around us was changing, growing more static, more intense. We each could feel it. It was coming soon, the competition. We could either defend our honor or seal our defeat. The air was electrified. Huddle, murmuring, ideas thrown left and right, bouncing off each other's thoughts, some flying high in the sky, then crashing. Nothing forthcoming that would ensure victory. Then, wait, yes, a spark. Now the wheels in motion, time to focus. Time is short. And it starts, each of our minds concentrating, our muscles pumping, all at once, all in tune, all in sync, all or nothing. Every turn sharp, every step thunderous, every movement crisp, every detail from beginning to end perfect. Oh my God! I shouted, jumping back before the black 10-pound rubber M16 rifle hit me square in the face. During the huddle, Cruz, a fellow recruit, had come up with the idea, a trick he had learned and was taught in ROTC. He marched down the middle of the two rows while spinning the rifle, passing by each of the members of the drill team. He paused for several seconds, continuing to spin. Then Cruz turned and began to march back up the aisle again, the rifle spinning in his hands. But instead of continuing his march, he halted right in front of me. Quickly, he twisted his wrist, the rifle turning vertically, flipping in between the tiny negative space separating our bodies. Faster, faster, faster it spun in his hands, a black blade, now only inches from my face. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't bat an eye. My job as his drill team member, as a soldier, was to suppress my fear. I had to stand there and take it. That move alone would have been an impressive one. We weren't professionals. Expectations of how good we were only ran so high. But our goal was not to impress the judges. We didn't just want to win. The judges, the other competitors, the audience, we wanted everyone awe-stricken. But when the prop slipped from his fingertips, my resolve faded. My body took over, determined to save itself from pain. By jerking away, I let Cruz and the rest of my team down. Trust. He said this with confidence, with firmness, without a quiver in his voice. His fingers shaped as though they were signaling the number 4, except each of them were pointed directly in my face, as the rifle had done only moments before. All eyes were on me now. Trust. I nodded, swallowing. After that, I did. With all my heart and soul and willpower, I trusted, I believed. The second piece I wrote a little bit after coming home to my daughter. I was deployed in Iraq in 2003, and I had her only 2 months prior. So when I got home, she was 10 months. So I wrote this poem and I dedicated it to her. Shadows of September. I left you alone, daughter, back when I draped green fatigues and blackened boots, wore a rifle for purpose and protection, the horse and pony shows. I wish I could say it was all honest work, defending red, white, and blue, but that was a grave mistake. When the killing started, when the gloves came off, I was just a little girl again who wanted more than anything to come home. It has been a few years, hours, minutes, seconds. I still haven't found the answers, only empty questions. Your angelic face scarred no soul. Your infant hands held no malice. Your pristine feet treaded upon no nation. Out there, I wished I resembled you, child. Graciousness, it spewed from your lips in dribbles as you slept. Small reminders that there was a God. Innocence. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Derek Meitzer. This is my first time. Sand, heat, time. Not just normal heat. Standing next to an open oven set to 400 degrees while blow drying your face heat, 140 Fahrenheit. Sand, sand everywhere. A type of nothingness you encounter only when the entirety of civilization is never created, not destroyed, just non-existent. And it's odd since this is the Fertile Crescent. Time. Empty, vast, shaped and staged by destructive winds, scented with backward aromas of pre-industrialization or post-apocalypse. Either way, I've missed out on the excitement. My days are spent picking up the pieces. I've been in Iraq for roughly a week, tail end of the surge. Atop a hill of sand overlooking a field of sand is a beetle, a large black bi-horned beetle with, I'm sure, some ridiculously direct name like sand beetle, or more fittingly, dung beetle. Fighting off a paltry unit of black minuscule ants, about 4, he defeats them with ease. Then more ants arrive, about 16 more to approximate, guess, assume, measure, instantaneously and maybe erroneously, but at least attempt to count. Still destroying the ants with an increased effort since the initial 4, the beetle survives. Ants, however, are not characterized by their willingness to accept defeat. Steadily pouring from the sandy earth, line upon line, unit upon unit of marine ants charge forward. Marine ants, a name I now scientifically apply, not for ability to swim, yet rather inability to quit. Strike and strike, marching blindly into the behemoth of a beetle, the ants eventually topple their giant enemy. Ripping apart the exoskeleton and grabbing chunks of beetle flesh for their colony, the victors seize their prize. This is a normal half hour of my daily routine at Combat Outpost Rawa. Boredom is the greatest enemy in war. It's about 1400. Not a pleasant time to be sitting on a hill documenting the construction progress of a new ASP, ammo supply point. I, as team leader for the combat camera attaché of my unit, leading all of 2 men, am tasked with this small mission. Well, there are no small missions, just non-essential ones. Down my anthill, I progressed across the expeditionary airfield, a fancy term for landing strip, to say my hellos and receive a hearty berating from my comrades in arms. Combat camera is not the most popular military occupation nowadays. People assume we are the Abu Ghraib guys, the ones that get you in trouble, the eyes and ears of the command. It's ridiculous. I don't care about the command. I care about my guys, my mission, my opportunity to get the shot, the Iwo Jima, foot soldiers marching through Korean mountains, village girls screaming over a backdrop of napalm, the defining moment of the war, the fall of Saddam's statue. Once my artistically sound photographs of the construction project are captured, I make case for the field mess, where a gorgeous spread of Tabasco sauce and imitation eggs await. Tomorrow, scheduled in my head, I will return to the ASP at 0900 for the second dose of imagery, a good time, since the temperature should only be 110. In the shady confines of our tent, not too far from the field mess, a member of my detachment, Jason, withdraws a portable DVD player from the belly of his pack. Being the mighty group of American Spartans we are, girlish squeals and giggles greet the contraband's unveiling. Anticipating a cachet of pirated Hollywood, or at least Valley films to follow, the audience of Marines is given but one option for viewing: The OC. For fortunate viewers unfamiliar, The OC is a popular drama focusing on the difficult high school lives of wealthy, beautiful, anorexic cocaine addicts in Orange County, California. It is possibly the worst television show to maintain a cast of writers. Still, when your options are beetle and ant showdowns or bikini-clad catfights, a young Marine's choice is clear. A couple hours of intense West Coast drama, then I fall asleep. Waking the next morning around 07:45, I prepare for my day. A hasty grab of mango juice and Pop-Tarts from the field mess, followed by a quick wash at the head trailer, and I am fresh for battle. Today's firefight, attempting to disenchant myself from Jason's DVD player. A few riveting tales from Orange County, which couldn't be further from the episodic life my brothers and I are experiencing, except for the sun possibly, and I am locked in a trance, eyes glazed over, laying my stomach on the cot, day pack as a pillow, legs bent in the air, boots crossed at the ankle. I'm a swooning high school girl. I can't be more than 1.5 feet from the 10 square inches of Botticelli-like beauty before me. Perfect faux natural warmth highlights the orange tans, pink fabric, dark lips, and sheen locks on our mythical heroine. Perhaps it is the ability to count Misha Barton's ribs that has entangled me. I lay moonstruck, while she swings and launches a lawn chair at who is either her cousin, lesbian girlfriend, or both. A chorus of foul-mouthed Marines, convicts at heart, cheer the boyfriend's second evasion from LAPD. Farewell to the beetle and ant. May their pathetic cavalcade of insect carnage go unattended. 08:45. I gather my gear and ready for the cross-camp trek to the ASP. Before reaching the tent's exit, Jason, with the support of other devils, makes the bold suggestion of one more episode. Fine, I'll do one more for Uncle Sam. Between 08:59 and 09:01, depending on whose watch had the higher-ranking owner, there is a loud noise. 2 loud noises. Now 3. A quick silence as the DVD player closes and a tent full of Marines remains still. Sergeant says, "We just got mortared." In disbelief because the ground didn't split beneath me and fire hadn't engulfed us all, I reply, "Nah, there's a lot of construction going on and some idiot probably just dropped something. There is no shortage of idiots defending freedom." The siren repeats dreadful noise, signifying that our humble war camp is indeed under attack. With smoothness I had never to that point and no time since displayed, I slide my flak jacket, a horribly designed garment that chokes more than protects, over my head. Stunned by achievement, I pause for 1/10 of a second and pat myself on the back. A little self-encouragement grows my gut. Grabbing my M16, Kevlar helmet, and Canon Mark II digital camera, I move. Trained to perform, I immediately frame and compose shots on the fly, cannon in hand. Doggedly, I run across thick, sinking sand to meet the rest of my squad. Our team of engineers, heavy equipment operators, and I move towards the rally point faster than phantoms, defying laws of resistance and friction. Sand and smoke fill our air from the impact of mortars. No one is sure where they land. Our rally point, the belly of a scraper. A scraper is a large construction vehicle with thick steel walls that's great for transporting injured Marines when not filling airfields with heavy gravel. Before climbing aboard, I table myself to allow my comrades to climb in the Victor. Selfishly enough, I use the extra time to determine an impact area so that I may get the shot, the one picture that makes this moment worth it. I don't wish for bad things to happen, but if they do, I want to be there, to immortalize them. Receiving encouragement from Sergeant to get in, I leap over the scraper's sides. Piercing sirens ring menacingly. Undeterred, I stand to do a quick 360 of the camp and capture more photographs while trying to determine an impact area. This is my time to work. Gunny politely instructs me to get the expletive down. I'm on the ground before he can finish calling me a jackass. I think I bumped my elbow on the way to my bottom. I must have hurt something. No one is as perfect as I remember being. Sitting in the scraper with rifle in one hand and camera in the other, I look around to see my buddies. Doc, Klausner, and Sargent. Caught in reflective eyes, we start laughing. Uncontrollably and louder than ever before. It's really a great moment of clarity and freedom when you realize there is absolutely nothing you can do to save yourself. Anyone, for that matter. When death comes, it comes. You can't shoot a mortar out of the sky, and you certainly can't outrun one. There's no way to know where it'll land, and even if you did, you're too slow to get away. You just accept that if you make it, great, and if you don't, oh well. It's not one of those moments you reach upon years of study and philosophical discourse. It's not revealed in the comforts of a cloister. It happens in an unjust instant. All your thoughts, ideals, beliefs, quicker than sudden, mean less than dog vomit and are, quite frankly, harder to stomach. Things are what they are. The situation doesn't care if you accept. It's light years beyond out of your control. I don't believe that expression about atheists in the foxhole. I may have thought of God then, but now all I remember is laughing. All of us laughing. After the launch of 2 attack helicopters and 15 minutes of sirens wailing, the all-clear announcement is made. A brief welcome to war speech is given by Gunny before the boys and I regroup. We discover where the mortars hit, the ammo supply point. Luckily, the high explosive ammunition and the ammo technicians hadn't yet moved in, and luckily, for me, the bewitching tales of the OC had been too much for my young psyche to resist. Otherwise, I may have done my job, taking pictures at the ASP as mortars slammed at 0900. More work for the ants, Lance Corporal Meitzer, combat photographer, piece by piece, prize by prize across the sand. Then again, if I lived, I sure missed a great photo op. Oh well, maybe next time. There's plenty of war ahead. Thank you.
My name is Jeremy Warnicky, and I will be reading a new piece called Admonishments and Anecdotes for Past, Present, and Prospective Members of the United States Armed Forces. Preface. There is no real rhyme or reason to the following admonishments and anecdotes, which are clearly a subjective assortment created by a disorganized mind, not necessarily interested in talking or writing about the military from a traditional storytelling standpoint, which the writer is not very good at to begin with. Not entirely tasteful, maybe, the following points are, however, the writer's best attempts at keeping things clean in terms of speech. When it comes to the military, the writer is normally a vulgar one. Vulgarity and the military go hand in hand. For the writer, they do at least. The writer was tempted to disclaim all earnestness, but he has admitted, to himself at least, the importance of it to his being. Point number 1. Don't join the military expecting not to be sent to a combat zone, especially if you join the, quote, national, unquote, guard or reserves. The writer has known people, or claims to have known people, who have gone throughout their entire military career without ever being deployed. Doesn't mean you'll be that lucky if that's what you desire, however. When the writer was a guardsman in Iraq, 40% of troops there were guardsmen or reservists. Number 2, don't expect to be stationed anywhere you desire either. In boot camp, the writer knew men, or claims to have known men, who had orders for Germany. These men were as happy as could be. Following boot camp, they were sent to Germany all right. They spent a day there maybe before being shipped on to various locations throughout the Balkans during the Kosovo War. One of the writer's drill sergeants, who had been stationed in Bosnia, had to look for landmines using a bayonet. Number 3, don't join for college benefits and other entitlements because you may not get them or be able to use them. Military life is not conducive to academic study. You have drills, trainings, call-ups. That is, a lot of things which can and will interfere with your classroom attention and attendance. Not all of your professors will understand or appreciate your military commitments either. The writer recalls having to withdraw from a class because of a 2-week annual training. Then, 9/11 happened. And after that, a lengthy deployment to the Middle East. The writer didn't graduate from college, he claims, through no fault of his own, until he was 26. Twice while overseas, he registered for classes only to withdraw at a later date. He couldn't even use the GI Bill when he got out, supposedly. The 2008 Educational Assistance Act expanded benefits for those who have served since 9/11, but, the writer asks, how long will that really last? Number 4, your family's understanding or lack thereof is something to consider before you join the military or re-enlist. Military life is not always conducive to a family life. The writer's spouse would have left him, she said, and rightfully so maybe, if he didn't come home from Iraq when he did. How many active service members have actually gotten divorced? The writer asks. In 2011, 30,000. In other words, the highest rate of divorce for service members since 1999. Number 5, chuck your ideas out the window, literally. When the writer got called up and stationed at the airport following 9/11, he used to take his recycling home with him. That is, he used to collect his paper, bottles, and other items for recycling until he could properly dispose of them without a monetary incentive. In Iraq, to his chagrin, the writer recycled on the side of the road. That is, his garbage went out of the Humvee window and onto the ground. The Navy, it's been said, does or did something similar. Out on the ocean, they jettisoned everything. Number 6, in country, barter with the locals. Just because they offer to sell you 2 cans of Coke for $2, it doesn't mean you have to accept the offer. Whatever the good, always tell them, no, too much. They'll come around. Personally, the writer hates bartering, but he has come to accept it for what it is, especially in the third world, a necessary evil. Number 7, in the desert, without ice or a refrigerator, it's best to drink water at night, late at night. Think 1, 2, or 3 in the morning. Also think of the hydration formation you went through during basic. You know, that thing where you had to drink a full quart of water every night. Otherwise, during the day, take a clean wet sock and drop your plastic water bottle in it. Hang the thing up to dry. The evaporation will cool the water off so much that it's almost cold and definitely palatable. Number 8. Now that you're divorced, according to the writer, use your military status to get some tail. Some men or women will only dig you because of your service. As long as you wore a uniform at one time or another, and you wore it proudly, that is honorably, you might as well take advantage. You did make a sacrifice or two, your marriage, for example, to be all that you can be, Mr. or Miss Sex Machine. Number 9, weapons safety and safety in general cannot be stressed enough. 1/5 of service members who died in Iraq, Afghanistan, or Vietnam died from non-combat or non-hostile related causes. What kind of causes exactly? Accidents primarily. One guy whom the writer knew popped a round into his head. It wasn't suicide, the man had a penchant for playing with his weapon. Another friend received burns on at least 45% of his body. This accident could have also been prevented, according to the writer, who wants to tell you about something he saw once written on the arch of a highway overpass in Kuwait in 2004. The words were written neatly in Arabic and in English, one set of words laid out on top of the other. They said quite simply, life is precious. Number 10, the Superman syndrome. Surviving the war does not make you a superhero. The writer, as pompous as he may be or sound, had a grandfather who had survived the Great War, World War I. Following the war, the grandfather refused to have his cancerous leg amputated. He beat the war, but he incorrectly figured he could beat cancer too. Number 11, be prepared to wear a flea collar. In some parts of Iraq, Afghanistan, and other parts of the world, fleas, which can carry disease just like any other insect, are pernicious. Watch out for mosquitoes and sandflies too. Use your DEET and malaria pills where and when necessary. Make sure you drink plenty of water when taking the pills. The writer messed up his throat when he swallowed a pill without water and then lied down on his cot for the evening. The pill made his throat sore, so sore that he could hardly eat the following day. It took him a week or two to fully recover. Number 12, try not to kill, torture, or maim the local population, indiscriminately at least. It makes for bad press and public relations, as if such a statement on its own does not. The writer also wants to remind you that as a service member, you have an American flag attached to your uniform for a reason. Number 13, try not to go to a strip club in your Class A uniform. It's hard to fight the temptation, the writer claims to know. He's been there, and he's seen others make this mistake. Not him personally, however. Number 14, refrain as much as possible from using offensive words when meeting new people. Words like gook and haji aren't exactly icebreakers. These select words are more likely to crash the conversation or relationship before it even starts. This point should be called stating the obvious. Number 15, come out of the closet and be proud of your service. You may not have had the greatest time in the military. Losing friends, for example, sucks. It really sucks. Doesn't mean you should go around with a chip on your shoulder for the rest of your life, however. Number 16, don't put all your eggs into one basket. The writer had a friend who got into Harvard and Yale for his undergraduate degree. The kid, of course, was glad, but he turned down both offers because he was set on West Point, which he got into on a preliminary basis. During the routine physical, it was discovered that the Academy hopeful had a heart condition which prohibited him from military service altogether. He was not allowed, therefore, to attend any of the three aforementioned schools for the three aforementioned reasons. Number 17, out on the forward operating base, burning your feces and washing your clothes out of a bucket is the way of life. Be sure to stir the fuel into the feces with your stick before you light the match. As for washing your clothes, some soldiers go weeks without. The writer claims he had so much crud on his pants the first month in Iraq, he could crease his front trouser legs with his bare hands. The unfortunate thing the writer wants to tell you is that once you go to Iraq, you don't go back. What's this mean? You don't get deployed again? No, the writer, now a civilian, is trying to tell you that he still washes his clothes out of a bucket. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us for tonight's Millennium stage performance. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Give them one more round of applause.